Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. How are you? I am Professor Mohamed Adel El-Hadidy, a professor of psychiatry, Mansoura University, and I am going to speak to you about lecture of psychology of addiction or psychology of addictive behavior. Before we start, this is a slide. Of course, everyone know today's how to protect yourself from viruses and respiratory viruses, and especially for coronavirus. All of you are know this slide. Uh, Today, the lecture will be psychology of addictive behavior. And first, what is the definition? Before the definition or before the start, this is presentation. If I want to note that if I use some Arabic word, this Arabic word just will be a translation, no added any information. So English speaking is of all details, and only if I use some Arabic word, this Arabic word may be just an translation for the word. So don't worry about using some Arabic word. This is translation for your colleague who of Arabic speaker student. Okay. Definition: addiction. Addiction in general is a state of being given up to some habit or compulsion dependence on behavior or substance. It means that addiction is not just to be addicted to a drug. Sometimes people could be addicted to other behaviors, not a drug. So we can find that people can be addicted to sex, addicted to gambling اللي هي القمار, drugs, or even mobile phones. So every type and every part of the behavior could be addictive. أي سلوك ممكن يكون نوع من أنواع الإدمان، والإدمان مش بس لإدمان المخدرات. Addiction depend on what is called reward pathway. What is meant by rewarding? Rewarding, if you do some behavior and this behavior is good, you will be rewarded for this. And rewarded for this, it is like taking a gift for doing this good behavior. And when you get the gift for this behavior, you will like this behavior, and so you repeat this again. For example, if you have been don't eating anything for all the day, and so you are very hungry, and from that time you are very hungry and you won't eat anything, and now you see a sandwich, a very good, a very big, and containing all content that you love, and this sandwich is in front of you. Your or 5 cents tasting and order, your vision, all your sense are starting to work and send information to your brain that you see and sandwich, and this sandwich have everything you want. And from this time, your brain and certain neurons in your brain in certain area will send in some information or some neurotransmitter called dopamine, and this dopamine is which make you feel happy. Once this information are seen in front of you, your brain send an impulse, especially from prefrontal cortex, send impulse to you to get this food and eat it. Once you eat it, the release of dopamine is much high, and so you will feel very happy for eating this, and this will be stored again in area of brain that eating this sandwich making you not hungry and making you very happy. Why some drugs are more addictive than natural reward? As I say, just eating sandwich when you are hungry give you a feeling good and give you reward. But drugs are very or more powerful than eating just sandwich or any other reward system. Why? When some drugs are abused or taken, they can release 2 to 10 times amount of dopamine that naturally released when you taking a natural reward. In some cases, this occurs almost immediately. Once you taking the drugs or smoked or injection, it is very rapid effect that can last much longer than predicted for natural reward. So if you taking natural reward, you're taking some release of dopamine. But if you're taking drug, the release of dopamine much and very rapid effect, and that is why these people who are addict on drug prefer to take drugs. The resulting effect of brain pleasure circuits downrift those produced by natural rewarding behavior such as eating and sex. So drug will be much effect. So other part or other sexual behavior or other eating or all natural reward system will not be working because I have much more stronger the stimulus that are working. So the effect of powerful reward strong motivate the people to take the drugs again and again. This is why scientists say that drug abuse sometimes we learn to do very well. Drug addiction or definition the drug. So taking drugs, what is drug addiction especially? Drug addiction is a strong physiological and psychological dependence on drug or other psychoactive drugs. Dependence is characterized by tolerance and withdrawal. Okay, we have different type of drugs that you can see here, and we will discuss each one by one in the next slides. What are the illicit drugs or drugs which is not approved to take by people or medical drugs that people take for illicit use and not medical use? Inhalants, prescribing drug, Ritalin, marijuana, alcohol, heroin, PCB, amphetamine, all these drugs can be used without medical prescription or regularly used without medical prescription for addiction. For this is hashish, as you see in the upper part of the slide, marijuana in the lower part, and bango, which is also near to the marijuana. Bango in Egypt, in Arab country, and marijuana. This is in United States, and both are product from both are products similar to each other. Marijuana and bango are similar to each other but in different country. Hashish is present in in all country, including Egypt and other. All these drugs are hashish, bango, marijuana contain what is called tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the active substance, and this is responsible for the effect of the drug. Alcohol, this is opiate drugs derived from this heroin and which is put in lines and they can be taken snuffing or taken by injection. This is cannabis plant. This plant. This is steroids. Again, sorry. This is steroid. These steroids are used in gym. You know, gyms. Sometimes people going to gym to increase muscle build and to taking this steroid, and these steroids make you stronger or appear more stronger, but it has very hazardous effect as you see on both side, right and left, all these hazardous effect of steroids. So I don't need you to remember all this, but remember that it is not usually healthy as you see. And if you see a person who have too much muscle like this, in fact he have also too much hazard all over his body. This is inhalant or substance used by aerosols that can be used for inhalation and taking the euphoric effect by inhalant. There is a synthetic drugs that making people like madness, that making it's called ice, shabu, voodoo, cut. All these drugs are using and making people like zombie drugs, and it is very common to be seen now, and it is widespread and very hazardous effect. The drug vary in its potential for creation or physical, psychological, and dependence. Some drug is very dependent from first use. Some drugs is dependent on prolonged use, or some drugs you once you take is you can get addictive. Other drugs you need to take several times to be addictive. Mostly commonly drug abused by high school seniors is to be other than tobacco and alcohol were marijuana, which and hashish of course. So hashish is the most common drug after tobacco and alcohol. In our country, alcohol is not very common, but we have also opiate and marijuana is very common, and opiate like tramadol drugs is very common in Egypt. So in Egypt is marijuana and tramadol. The problems of the substance use or drug use related disorder, substance use disorder and drug use disorder can be divided into substance use disorder or substance induced disorder. Substance use disorder means that the problem is in the use itself. So drugs does not make any problem except that it making dependence. So the problem here is only dependence. On the other hand, the substance can making other manifestation like intoxication, withdrawal, induced delirium, persistent dementia, other persistent amnestic disorder, induced psychotic disorder, mood disorder, anxiety, sexual disorder, and sleep disorder. Uh, what is dependence؟ امتى نقول ان الشخص عنده اعتمادية او امتى نقول ان الشخص اصبح مدمن؟ Substance use disorder over 12 criteria, 12 different criteria. Two, it means dependence, two or more for 12 months. It means one, two or more for 12 months. It means 1 year is called dependence. One only is enough to diagnose the abuse. Abuse, which means that hazardous use of the drug, hazardous use of the drug, and it could be considered as mild form for dependence. So, what these 11 criteria? 11 criteria, two of these mean to be dependence, but should be continued for 12 months. First one, taking drug in large amount for longer duration than you want or than patient want to use or one he intended to use. Wait, wanting to cut down or stop the using of the drug, but he cannot manage this. He want to stop, but he cannot stop this. Spending a lot of time of getting, using, recovery from use of the drug. Craving, craving اللي هو الشوق للمخدر. Craving is has the desire to use the drug. When the drug is absent, he has the feeling that he need to use this drug or the urge to use for the drug. Not managing to do what usually he should do. For example, he has to go to the work, he have to do his activity in the school, but he cannot do this because using of the drug. Continue use even he have problems in relation with his mother, his wife, or any people who live with, but he also continue to use. He give up all his activity, social activity he usually do, occupational or his work, recreational activity, sport, playing sport, going outside, he give up doing this activity. Using substance again and again, even when he put his in dangers, like taking substance for example and going driving, and so he can make an accident. Taking substance and sit up or stand up in high places, and this place he can fall from it, so it's being in dangerous situation, all this situation. And he also he taking drug and he knows that he can be fall and can be facing dangers, but he continue to use the drug and do this dangerous situation, continue to use, or even to take the drug even he knows that it can give him physical and psychological problem. So he knows that this drug is affecting his health. He knows that his drug affecting his psychological condition, but he continue using the drug. Tolerance, which means that they continue to take the drug or continue to increase the dose of the drug to get the same effect that he feel. So after using drug for long period, the drug could not lead the same effect he want before. So he need to increase the amount of the drug to feel the same effect. So tolerance is me could be considered by two things. Either using the drug or just using the same amount of the drug could not give the same effect, or the need to increase the drug to reach the same effect after short time of use of after time of use. Withdrawal symptoms, it means that the person feel a bad symptom after stopping the drug or after cutting off the drug use. We have two types of dependent: psychological and physical dependence. Psychological dependence, which is called habituation, it is characterized by continuous and intermittent craving for substance. Physical dependence is characterized by withdrawal, substance specific drugs. If stopped, every substance have its specific symptoms when he stopped. So if I stop sedating drugs, patient will not sleep well. If stopped stimulant drug, the patient sleep much more. So the withdrawal is a specific to the drug effect and to the dose of the drug and the amount of the drug. And tolerance, again, we say we have the increased amount to reach the same effect or the desired the effect as we say before. Why do some people become addict while others don't become addict? The answer for this question is being what is called vulnerability. Vulnerability means that you not all people not all people are vulnerable to be addicts when they use the drug for the first time. But some are liable to get this. Why? What is the factor for this? The factor for this is called multimodal factor or fundamental models, which means that, or biopsychosocial models of addiction. It means that biological factor, psychological factor, and social factors, these three main items on are the main causes. If these factors are present, and then the person takes the drug they use, leading to what is called brain switch. At this time, when the brain switch occurs, the person get addiction. So I should have biological factor, psychological factor, and social factor, then use the drug. If the person don't use the drug, although he has this factor, he will not get the brain switch and he will not become addict. So factor should be present and also the use of the drug. Once the person uses the drug, he starts to feel addiction or to be addict, and it lead to what is called after that dependence and withdrawal effect and so on. So, what is psychological factor and social factor and biological factor that causing person to be addict? First, the availability, social factor, the availability and the legibility and the cost of the drug. Is the drug is available and it's easy to use, easy to find, and its price is so cheap, so people can get it very rapidly, get it very easily, so it is widespread, and so the drug can be more addict. Advertising and modeling. If you see for the model, if you see for TV movie, and you see it is discussing about the drug use, and you can see the models or the series in the series, and this series may be about 100 session. In each session you see taking drug, people who are taking drug are happy and are enjoying their life. Maybe at the end only they feel problem, but all these movie series and speaking about drug may be motivating for people who don't like or who don't happy to take the drug to feel happy like this famous movie and they are doing, and they may be neglecting the end part of the movie. Okay. يعني لو في عندنا فيلم او تمثيليه، ممكن نلاقي ان المخرج او يسيبنا حلقات طويله جدا 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 بيستعرض الناس بتدمن المخدرات وبتاخد المخدر ومفيش اي مشكله، لكن في الحلقه الاخيره بس هي دي اللي الشخص بيحصل فيها نوع من انواع انه يحس ان المدمن تاثر. فكتير من الناس ممكن يحبوا شكل المدمن وشكل الحياه بتاعته واستخدام المخدر ان هو في حياته، دون ان هو يهتم بالحلقات الاخيره، وبالتالي ده نوع من انواع الدعايه للادمان. peer pressure or friend pressure. Sometimes young people are emitted models or pressure of peers. Sometimes if he have a family member or his pressure that making pressure for him or friend to take the drug, and it is very effective part for the taking drug. Laws and customs, many countries now accepting to use the drug, accepting to take the drug, and customized to take the drug, and so it is available and easy to take the drug. Biological factor, and one of the most important biological factor is genetic predisposition. So being genetically predisposed, that mother and her daughter could be having the gene from his mother, and this make her more liable to get addiction if her mother is addicted. And usually the gene is related to dopamine and the dopamine receptor, because we say that dopamine is important part for the drug taking. So the receptor or gene associated with dopamine is very important. The neurotransmitter playing role in addiction, the most important is dopamine, but other also neurotransmitter is norepinephrine, catecholamine, endorphin, and enkephalin, GABA. All these drugs are, or all these neurotransmitter may playing role, but the most important one is dopamine, and we will discuss later. Brain reward area and brain reward system. There is part of the brain, and especially the limbic system, and this limbic system, the median for brain bundle runs through the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus having center for primary driving like threat, hunger, anger, aggression, and sex. These primary drives generate mild feeling and discomfort that push one to taking satisfaction, which experience as reduced discomfort or the pleasure reward system. So uh, this part this part in the limbic system and the hypothalamus, this part is usually responsible for the basic needs or basic need for the person to eat, to drink, and to have sex. And if this part is not fulfilled well, the people have been feeling that he is not feeling good, or he is not happy and is feeling discomfort. So this area is also the area responsible for addiction. So person who is addict, he usually feels that he is missing something, and he need to take the drug to fulfill his dissatisfaction and to feel pleasure. And for the addict people, are the drug is this answer, and the using the drug help him to get this. Genetic factor, as we say before, that genetic play very important part. For example, about half the smokers are in general half the smoker are genetically imposed, and the gene is dopamine receptor gene, as we say before, and variant A variant is the most responsible for also dopamine receptor for addiction, for smoking, and for alcoholism. So if you want to remember one gene is dopamine receptor gene, especially variant A1, and this is responsible for smoking, for alcoholism, and maybe in other part of smoking. Uh, why this occur? Because low dopamine, people who has low dopamine
or people who has genetically has low receptors of dopamine are more needed to take the drugs to stimulate them. So these people with addiction may have either low dopamine level or few receptor than most, causing them need to get substance to get them feeling more, and so they use the drug to give more stimulation so to feel happy. Also, biological factor like family or twin study found that taking drugs, if people are the daughter see her mother and her father taking alcohol, for example, so they going and grow up and taking alcohol at the same, and this is very important for biological factor. The reward system, as we say before, we have the most important neurotransmitter is dopamine, and dopamine is originated in what is called ventral tegmental area of the midbrain, ventral tegmental area of the midbrain, and projected to limbic region and the nucleus accumbens. And we say limbic region and the region and the nucleus accumbens. This is the most important part, which is reward system. So all drug should increase dopamine in the nucleus accumbens to feel happy. Okay? After feeling happy, so this is, as you see in this picture, ventral tegmental area, the source of originating of dopamine, passing it to the nucleus accumbens, then feeling happy and send information to prefrontal cortex, a part of the brain which is responsible to taking decision. And once he feel happy from the nucleus accumbens and information reached to the brain prefrontal cortex, making the people to take decision to repeat the behavior again and again and again. That is what's called brain reward system. As we say, we have different drugs. All drugs at the end should increase dopamine concentration in the nucleus accumbens, otherwise he will not feel happy. If you see this, this is the nerve ending from upper part, which are upper neurons, and lower part is another neurons. The upper part we have vesicles containing dopamine. The lower part we have receptors, which is dopamine receptor. Taking the drugs lead to release of the dopamine, and after the release of the dopamine, lead to this dopamine will be transmitted to combine the dopamine receptor and giving the effect of the drug. As much as dopamine, much dopamine release, the euphoric effect as much. We have different mechanism how the dopamine is released or how the dopamine is increased much, but the end result in different way is to increase the dopamine and combination dopamine receptor. With long use of dopamine, after long use of the drugs, the release of dopamine, much dopamine, this lead to what is called feedback inhibition, which means that there is damage of part of the receptor. We have the brain have much dopamine came, so he reduce the number of receptor. After the reduction of the number of receptor in postsynaptic, it lead to people have feeling depressed, sadness, and to have no more feeling happy with the use of the drug. They just feel normal with high stimulating of drug. So this drug, you take much drug but just feel normal, not feel as good. And this is what is called dependence, or how tolerance is okay. Tolerance is making taking much drugs but the same, or the very low effect, and the very low effect is occurred by damage of the receptors with containing with dopamine. As we discussed now social factor and biological factor, we are going to discuss again the psychological factor. Psychological factors, uh, what is meant by psychological factors? Psychological factors are factors present in the person or in the addictive person, not in the environment, like social factor, and this psychological factor playing role that making the person to take the drug. We have two main domains for studying psychological factor. First one is the motivation factor and learning factor. What is meant by this motivation or learning factor? Motivation or the drive to take the drugs. It's usually this is discussing how the drug addiction occur. Some people who are very lazy, some people who are under or negative want to be stimulated. They have motives. They want to be more social, more to be more active, so they search for drug that making him more active and more social. So taking the what is called stimulating drug. On the on the other point of view, we have people who are very active, very anxious, and this anxiousness making them to be in dangers and sometimes making them excited. And so these people want to be more calm. So they people taking what is called sedative drug. So the motivation for use of drug is usually uh, to fill or to give something for the person. For the first use, if I find myself is lazy, I would take the drug which is stimulant. If I find myself is energetic and hyperactive and more excited, sometimes I prefer to take the drug or sedative. This is the motivation which plays the role is what the drug at the start. Why I choose this drug and not choose the other drug. So for the initiation, people are expecting something and do or choose the drug according their expectation. If this drug feeling or drug gives a positive effect, they use the drug again and again. For example, to do any behavior in the world, any behavior, I have two forces: motivational force, which pushing me to do this behavior, and constraint force that prevent me to do this behavior. So some forces or some factor making me to do the behavior, other factor preventing me from doing the behavior and say no, please don't do this behavior. At any time I have to choose to do any time. At any time you have to choose between food, learning, studying, sex, taking drugs, and you have option to choose anyone. And usually I choose anyone according to the pushing factors or motivational factor and constraint factor, as we say before. In addiction, the motivational factor is very high to take only the drug, and constraint factor which prevent me to stop taking the drug is very low. So once the drug is present, I could not think in anything except taking the drug. So once the drug present, food, sex, social relation, or are not having effect. So presence of the drug making all other factor as if it is not present. And this is the motivational factor. And after I experimental use for one time, then circumstantial use for one time, I continue to use time by time, time by time. It become to be casual use. After that, I continue be every time to be intensive use and compulsive use. I cannot stop use, and at the end, it will be addiction. So it started by experimental use, using only on vacation, using only in party or in festival, but after that I use every week and then every day. Compulsive use, I cannot stop even to drink all the day, and it returned to be addiction at the end. With each time the motivational force is strengthening, 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 and at the end it becomes motivational toxicity to take the drug, which is much. So this is the motivation, and the motivation is usually at the start of the taking of the drug. On the other part, which is learning, and learning is playing role why I continue to use a drug. So motivation is usually explaining why I start to take the drug. On the other hand, learning it means that why I continue to use the drug. Why continue to use the drug? Because we have classic conditioning. It means that just the presence of the drug remember me that the drug having good pleasure and making me happy, so I take I take the drug more and more. So once present the drug, it mean happy. Once present the drug, it mean happy. On the other part is meaning that combination or linking between stopping of the drug and the feeling of pain, which is due to withdrawal symptoms, and this make me to avoid stopping of the drug. So learning is by two parts. What's this? Classic conditioning, it's linking between presence of the drug and happiness, and this means that I have to take the drug to feel happy. On the other hand, also there is linking between stopping of the drug and feeling pain, as if you be punished for the stopping of the drug, so the people continue to use the drug. Sometimes also we have different and also other psychological factors which are important playing factor to continue to use the drug. For example, antisocial personality, and these people uh, with antisocial personality and borderline personalities, these people are usually have unstable personality and used to take the drug to feel more relaxed, feel to more can be calm, and these people usually making crimes, making problems, and if you see people who are making crime, usually taking drug to feel more happy. Okay. Other part is feeling of low self-esteem, of low confidence. Sometimes people say, I hate myself, I don't like myself, I feel low, I don't feel happy with myself, and these people feeling is very bad, and they use the drug to inhibit this feeling or to stop this feeling. Also, inability to face stress, and we have many stress in their life, and they have inability to face this stress. So these people having to take the drug to feel more relaxed facing of this stress, and this is what is called self-medication. So people, for example, are depressed, having social phobia, he cannot do social activity, having anxiety and facing stress, sometimes taking drug which is sedative drug to feel more relaxed and can continue their life. Self-medication times can be taking smoking. Sometimes people who are once they are stressed, they smoke, and sometimes go to gambling to relieve the crisis or to feeling. Psychological factors also playing learned behavior. You learn the behavior from family, from peers, sometimes a close friend or romantic partner can be playing or influencing attitude of the behavior, making people or peer pressure affecting him to continue use the drug. Many or the one of the most important factors for making especially the adolescent to take the drug, they is the peer, because by using the peer and your romantic partner especially, he push him to take the drug and he cannot say no. Anytimes we have what is called physical dependence model. Anytime you have triggers stimulating you to take the drug, or the motivation to take the drug, feeling anxious, feeling depressed, or feeling something, you need something which is not present. So I have triggered to start use the drug. Taking the drug, after taking the drug, I start the mechanism for dependence, release of dopamine, and this dopamine feeling me happy and sends impulse to brain reward system and the prefrontal cortex feeling happy. If I stop, I feel withdrawal symptoms, and withdrawal symptom is very bad, which is negative enforcement. It means that to avoid me, please don't giving me information or message to you, don't please don't stop, because if you stop you will feel negative symptoms or bad symptoms, which is called negative reinforcement or bad symptom. So it trigger me again to take the drug again and again and again, and the cycle is continuing. Using the drug leading dependence, and taking the drugs relieves these bad symptoms, which is withdrawal symptoms. so I feel more happy to take the drug. I have positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement means that positive reward and give me to continue to use again and again. What is difference between positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement? Positive reinforcement, it means that it is giving me a reward or good feeling, so I continue to do the behavior again. Negative reinforcement means that you feel bad feeling that prevent you to continue the behavior again. So please don't stop the drug. The course of substance use is usually that addictive people is having course which is either stopping or stop the drug by himself and remission and relapse. Sometimes improved, sometimes return again, improve, return, and so on. The outcome usually is chronic, natural recovery present. So sometimes people stop taking the drug by themselves, but it's very low. Morbidity or other diseases, which is like HIV virus, hepatitis C virus, or liver disease, kidney disease, or disease could be present with using the drug. And this, which is very dangerous, and sometimes it's occur during the use of the drug because of the intoxication, which means that overdose of the drug, and it is very common to see the addicted people dying due to use of the drug. Management or treatment. Usually we have a first stage in management, what is called detoxification. Detoxification means that taking the drugs from the body, and after that motivational enhancement, increase the motivation of person to continue on medication, and psychotherapy and rehabilitation, which is the end stage of treatment. So first stage detoxification, it is usually done in the hospital. It take about 7 to 10 days, and usually there is a symptoms and withdrawal symptoms are present because you stop the taking the drug, so withdrawal symptoms are present. And usually every drug has specific detoxification drug or specific symptom according to the drug. Motivational enhancement means that I'm doctor, a psychologist, psychiatrist are doing special psychotherapy for the person, making him to increase his motivation. We want to increase the motivation of the substance user to taking the drug, and so he can stop using the drug. Timing usually occur after withdrawal, just after the withdrawal and detoxification is get out. Usually I have to do motivational enhancement therapy, and we have to make several repeated trials till the person completely stop. Some biological treatment we can use like agonists, which means that using a substance to do the same effect of the drug or substitute the treatment of the drug and maintain the effect of the drug of faster. It's usually used to manage withdrawal symptoms, and it is like for smoking. If I stop smoking, you can use nicotine replacement therapy or nicotine gum, nicotine patch, or these are used to give the same symptoms or feeling to prefrontal cortex, maintaining the same amount of nicotine so the person don't use the smoking. Sometimes it's also used like methadone therapy, which is drug used to treat opiate therapy. Antagonist with different mechanism, it means that I block the use of the drug of the brain by using substance to block the receptor of the brain. For example, smoking, we can use bupropion and other SSRI, bupropion and other SSRI that can making to stop the drug use. For heroin and naltrexone are used as antagonists, which antagonize the effect of the opiate, and so if you take the opiate it will not work and not giving the effect. So the person have taking the drugs that blocks the effect so he will not feeling happy and he could not continue to take the drug again. Last stage, which is psychotherapy and rehabilitation, which contain cognitive behavior therapy, and this therapy to correct the cognitive error as a person and so helping him to stop taking the drug. Self-help group like Alcoholic Anonymous, Narcotic Anonymous, and family interventions, psychoeducation, family therapy. All these type are different type of psychotherapy, and all this therapy playing roles in treatment of addiction. This was all types of all stages of management of addiction. This was the last slide in my presentation today. Thank you, everybody. Please keep healthy, keep yourself, and take care of yourself. Thank you.